All right, so welcome into the live stream today. We're going to have some fun and we're going to retire with crypto. The idea that a lot of people talk about, whether it's in DMs or we get this in chat, is what can you do for long-term planning around crypto assets? Hopefully we're going to answer that question today and dive in a little deep. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. As you guys know, if you're new to the channel, one thing we really dive into, of course, is technology, Web3. Blockchain is a big part of that. But the derivatives around that are all the investment opportunities. And of course, one, when you're building a wealth profile, and when I say wealth profile, whether you're young, you're middle-aged, or you're even older, it's really not too late to start in building your whole wealth profile. That can be a variety of different kinds of investments and asset classes that you get into. One that we're going to focus on today, of course, is crypto IRAs and why that might work for you and what and how the industry is starting to trend. This is a report that we've pulled. We'll make sure and leave a link into this report in the comments or in the section below to kind of dive into it. But there's a lot of data in here that really go into what you have to do in getting ready for retirement in utilizing crypto assets as a whole. One thing that I was surprised with was some of the data that was coming in. Now remember, there's also some very different things that are happening around cryptocurrency in general when you look at adoption curves today, whether you look at Gen Z, the millennials, or boomers, there is a certain level of adoption curves that are starting to take place, and a lot of this will have a bearing as we start to see cryptocurrencies being adopted by a larger swath of the global population. So a lot really kind of leaning into it when you look at the overall report that we'll go through here. 61% of their respondents believe that cryptocurrency is a strong long-term investment compared to 46.5% of financial experts. So in essence, what's happening is that the retail investor and general investors are starting to kind of move ahead of what the financial experts are starting to lean in on, and much more risk on assets. And that to me says a lot about not only the global economy, what we're dealing with in the trust of the fiat system, but also just in the whole idea of how cryptocurrency has liberated and somewhat kind of opened up the opportunity for the average Joe to really start making something and doing something with their life in terms of their savings and their investments in the future. 4 in 5 in cryptocurrency owners plan to hold on to their coins until retirement. That one surprised me a bit because that's a pretty significant amount, 80%. Nearly half of respondents now are expecting to retire early due to cryptocurrencies, meaning they think that because of the growth opportunity that they'll see, the opportunities there are pretty significant in terms of early retirement if you are investing correctly and wisely in your early years. And we'll go into that. When's the best time to invest? Because there's different things that could be happening even if you're under the age of 30. The opportunities are a little different than if you're over the age of, say, 50. 5% of respondents reported investing in Bitcoin IRA. Nearly half claim they would consider doing so. Somewhat, underwhelming number, but what it does tell me is that we're starting to see a pretty significant move of people warming up to crypto. And when you look at the numbers here, over the last decade, individuals have become more bullish as crypto and smart investment. Over 61% of respondents view digital assets as a strong retirement investment option, even though the majority view them as volatile assets and investments. And you look at the category, let me kind of zoom in on this one right here so we can kind of see a little bit of that. But baby boomers still at around 50% digital assets for a long-term investment. I was surprised at that number being so high, almost 60% with Gen X, 60.4% millennials. I kind of thought millennials would be more high, a little higher. And then this is the one that surprised me the most, and that is Gen Z, which is the super young, under the age of 25, and 78% now looking at digital assets kind of as the future of crypto, as investment class level assets to put into long-term planning. When you think about that, and remember that we're looking at two major demographics that are evolving very quickly right now that will, within the next few years, and I'm talking less than 5, start to take over what is, and this has been happening for about 6-7 years now with millennials, is starting to truly take over a large percentage of the earning population of the United States and technically of the globe. So there is a great opportunity for upstream opportunities around crypto assets in general, especially at 60.4. But again, just on Gen X and millennials, back to that chart, 60.4 and 58, that one was very neck and neck, but the 78.2, definitely one that surprised me. And if you look further into it, most common digital asset associations, people look at this as more volatile versus what we see in traditional. But I think a lot of people still consider stocks and certain assets. When I look at it, if I were to classify volatility, I would look at crypto as one, businesses that you might invest in to or for your own self, that's still highly volatile. And then potential volatility would be high risk assets in maybe the stock market. And then risky, I think, still are traditional stocks that are out there, overhyped in some cases, probably when you get into stocks and things of that nature, like say a Tesla or something of that nature. I want to go into the idea of whether or not you should look at holding cryptos super long term, because this is a question that I think a lot of people are asking. Now, if I buy a Bitcoin today or I buy Ethereum, is it something I should be trading and looking at in a short-term aspect, or is it something that I can feel confident that we're going to continue to see moving in that direction? Now, there are a lot of projects out there, especially there are ones, and also to a certain extent, some of the altcoins that they're going to be around. There's a handful that won't be around, but if you stay in the top 50 tokens, really maybe the top 70, I feel very confident that we're going to see a lot of those really develop and kind of move to that next level of creativity and innovation in their respective categories and areas of expertise. And I think those will stay consistent. So the likelihood of investing, like for instance, an AVAX, an Avalanche, a Polygon, those kinds of projects, whether that being a layer 2 and a layer 1, are going to be here. And if they can reside within maybe a crypto IRA portfolio, then you've got an opportunity to really see the upside of where those are going. Imagine if you'd invested in maybe a crypto IRA and put ETH in it just 2 years ago, where you would be now. Pretty significant growth and investment, and what the opportunity for upstream on that is going to be huge. Which digital assets are being held until retirement? These are, of course, the big ones, and that's Bitcoin, of course, 76.5%. I was surprised that NFTs were so high at 35%. And even meme coins, I was really surprised at this at 20%. But again, I think that goes back to the demographic and the millennials, and also to a certain extent Gen Z or Gen Y and Gen Z, is that they do lean in on a lot of those types of assets. So this was another statement. Financial advisors routinely advise clients to adopt long-term investment strategy, not concern themselves with short-term market. This is something we talk about all the time on the channel. If you're looking at a long-term hold here in crypto, and that's even if you're just investing in crypto in general, forget about the IRA for a second. If you're just investing in general, you should be looking at long-term. Now, there are trades that you could and should be making if you are a very active participant and you're willing to do something like that. Remember, not financial advice, but the idea is that when we do these kinds of report reveals, things of that nature, it's hopefully going to give you enough research juice to go out there and say, okay, so which ones of these should I start looking at? Obviously, the defaults are Bitcoin and Ethereum, but there are others that really start to move into this. But this was an interesting statement. Over 3/4 of reported purchasing cryptocurrencies say they intend to hold until retirement. I still think that's unbelievable to me. For this early in the stage of cryptocurrency, in terms of where it is, in terms of the adoption curve. But I guess when you think about it, there's a lot of people who are drinking the Kool-Aid right now, and we do have a lot of kind of the crypto native people that are involved in cryptocurrency, hovering around 2 trillion. Maybe that does lean into it, but with the fact that we're going to see Gen Z and millennials really kind of populate the land in terms of potential investment classes in the future, in the next 5 years, they'll pretty much control most of the investment classes, then it doesn't surprise me that that would be the case. All right, so where do you find a home for your crypto? These are the particular areas: traditional IRAs, about 50%, 401ks, 403bs, Roth IRAs, and then health savings HSAs. And again, those are the various types of IRAs that you can get into. And what I would recommend is make sure and get with someone that you really trust and that you can kind of understand how you want to move into crypto IRAs. And of course, our partner is I Trust Capital. We do that with them all the time. I'll show you some of those things. So they've got an offer right now. You guys can use it. But one more detail that I wanted to jump to, actually there's several points here. Traditional IRAs, 49.7%, top of the list, 403 and 401ks, a little bit, also very, very happy. But I see that this is starting to move. And one thing that I'm getting asked more and more around my own circles is people that are looking at transferring IRAs into crypto IRAs. So we are seeing that phenomenon starting to occur. And I think as we see more and more young people kind of getting into that, most likely it's going to be a real scenario. I want to jump into a couple of other things. So this was another one that I thought was surprising. And this is cryptocurrency for work. Nearly 3 in 5 on this report said it should be, cryptocurrency should be added as an option for employer-sponsored 401 and 403 plans. This would be big if we get to see that starting to go, because you look at where this potentially could roll out to in terms of offering. And I think this will also come where and when we start to see different types of payment protocols. And when I say payments, like payroll, ADPs, Gustos of the world, open up the opportunity to tie, instead of a bank account, and be able to function over here on the front side for your 941s. I'm thinking from a business owner standpoint, because you have your federal tax and your state level tax if you're in a state that taxes at the state level. All of that has to be managed through your payroll. But once that starts to see an opportunity where you could see not fiat related payment, but crypto related payment, I think our guys here in our crypto pit would probably take crypto as payment if we could work out that front side. So I think we'll see more and more opportunities and innovations around a lot of these financial instruments in the future. So you definitely want to be watching out for some of those for sure. So good stuff here. This was another thing, financial experts on cryptocurrency for retirement. Short term, unsure, but long term, look at this right here, risky, 52%. Then you look at long term, again, still very, very interesting around what they're looking at in terms of, and it kind of slightly reduces there in risky on the long-term aspect. So I think that leans into the whole valuation proposition of where crypto is heading. Now, I want to get to a couple other topics here because there's a couple that are interesting on where this is going. And one of them was this section right here, and that is on the Gen Zs. All right, so Gen Z's income is predicted to beat millennials in 10 years and be the most disruptive generation ever. This is my point of being able to really understand kind of the growth of where Gen Z is really moving, because this is, in essence, they are, back in the day, the millennials were kind of considered as the digital natives, meaning they didn't know anything but the internet. The internet didn't exist. My generation, Gen X, we were around when the internet was born. So we knew before the internet, but millennials have not. And I think that's what's happening here with Gen Zs, is they don't understand anything beyond cryptocurrency and how digital assets and decentralized opportunities in Web3 are going to be represented around technology as a whole. You look at the statement here, Gen Z revolution is starting. The first generation born into an online world is now entering the workforce and compelling other generations to adapt to help them, not vice versa. So I think that is huge. And it's also one of the areas right here, if you look at what B of A, Bank of America, Gen Z's economic power, fastest growing access to all general cohorts. This generation's income is expected to increase 5-fold by 2030. Now, that being just 8 years away now at 33 trillion as they enter the workplace, this will account for over a quarter of global income. Again, one of the biggest steps in the history of mankind in terms of a single demographic truly changing the global financial position. So when you think about the next 10 years and where Bitcoin could be, then you add the fuel to the fire of Gen Z and 33 trillion in essence, and most likely that's an underscore of what the market will actually be, depending on what increased in inflation and overall fiat values, all those kind of things that will flow into this. That's going to be a pretty big deal in terms of of where the growth is going to be. 9 out of 10 Gen Zers live in emerging markets, which is, I think, is again one of those other factors that we'll start to see more global perspectives around crypto. We already see it as it exists today in countries around the world. In fact, even our own YouTube channel, over 50% of you guys are international. We're about 46% of our viewers being US, and it continues to slowly tick down. And it's not that we're slowly, it's just that the demographic is shifting because the massive amount of growth that is occurring on a global scale is real. And of course, that lends again back to the positivity of where crypto is going. So generation globally living, this is in India. Israel says it stands out as the Gen Z country. India is also seeing improved youth literacy rates, urbanization. So you see all of these evolutions happening in these young emerging countries. India has been kind of earmarked as one of what could be one of the big titans of crypto in the future. A lot of regulations started moving in that direction. So again, all of this points back to where IRAs, and if you're looking at going into IRAs as a whole and building your wealth, this is the first track into it. And of course, the question is, when do you do it? When do you start the process? So there's a couple of scenarios here. Before working full-time, 22 and younger, probably not really a biggest issue, but there's no minimum age for opening an IRA right now. You get into early career, I still think that might be acceptable up to around 35. Sure, there's going to be an opportunity there. Remember, you can commit a lot more funds to it as you get older. But really the prime working years, 35 to 60, this is when people typically will start thinking about IRAs. And good reason. You're in prime earning years, so you're able to have the money available to put into IRAs because you're essentially locking those up for long term. And even to a certain extent, when you get into approaching retirement, which is 60 and up, remember, retirement age is at 59 and a half. That's when you can start making standard withdrawals without getting additional penalties. But even with that, people working longer in the workforce, people that are in business that are just doing something really more for a family pass down and the tax benefits of doing that, there's a lot of people that are starting to approach IRAs at later in life stages. So big stuff. As I said, I Trust Capital, I think best place to really kind of go out there. One thing I've done here, it's easy setup, 24-hour investing. They are a sponsor of our channel. We talk about them all the time. But one thing you can do with iTrust is you can sign up. Now, this is the process. So if you're not sure about an IRA and you're thinking, hey, I want to get into a crypto IRA, then this would be the route you take. So you just click over to the iTrust, click open account, and then when you land right here, you can create your account. You don't have to fund it immediately. Essentially, you can start learning about what you should be doing to jump into it, because every person's financial position is going to be a little different. The cool thing is you're going to get $100 in funding, a funding reward, just by using our link below, so make sure and do that. Now, I promised some stuff here around Bitcoin today. I wanted to show you guys, and I'm going to just give you guys our latest update on the CPI. So what you have currently, and this is something that starts to lean in on how we measure what's happening in Bitcoin, in the marketplace itself, and also how we're adding more and more features to the CPI. But what we've done is in the overall markets, we give you this chart here that we update weekly, and we've made some changes in the CPI. So right now the plan is to continuously update the overall charts on Monday, and that's going to include the overall categories for metaverse, altcoins, DeFi, and then Bitcoin ETH play into that. So like for instance right here being Bitcoin compared to the overall right there, and there's Bitcoin. Here's ETH, good example. And then we compare against altcoins individual. This is when we roll up all the altcoins tagged in the APIs that we pull out. So that gives you a little bit of sentiment data. We are starting to roll in the amplification data into these charts. So be on the lookout for these coming in maybe as early as next week. Here's Metaverse and Gaming, kind of showing Metaverse outperforming overall right now. DeFi kind of dipping a little bit underneath, and I think this is happening because of the yields that are out there with a lot of different projects. So I think that is the big factor with DeFi. The other new element that you're going to find on the CPI is this button right here, and that's the top 10 cryptos. Now, what we've done is now, instead of just individually ranking and giving you data from a, let me zoom in on that a little bit, from a 12-week period on Bitcoin and Ethereum, we now go into the top 10 market caps. So you're going to get Binance, BNB. This is where it gets really interesting, and you're going to see a new chart layer showing up in this one as well, and that will be amplification. So that's going to be a big advantage. Ripple, of course, right there, obviously has a top 10 market cap. Solana is also being scored now, so you got historical data on each week. Starts to get a little tight here. I'm going to do a couple of videos for you guys as well, how to read sentiment and when amplification is applied within it. What's the way to look at something, whether, because really what we're trying to do is, are we getting prepped for a down market or an up market? Really, it's that simple. It's either down or up, or are we going to see sideways action? And that's kind of the area that we look at. Luna is also included in our top 10. So you'll see Luna, of course, kind of picking out right here and then zooming up the charts, as you guys know about Luna. AVAX, same kind of scenario. AVAX is one that has detached away from overall, and of course has just shown tremendous growth over the last several weeks. And then Cardano, for you Cardano people, we are not leaving you out. There is Cardano, which was underperforming for quite a while until we saw this dip. And then, of course, Polkadot coming in, and then Matic as our top 10. So you'll get all 10. Amplification will be implemented into our top 10 crypto, and we're working on some other aspects for metaverse and gaming that will have a lot of similarities. We are working on some other cool things for profile pages for different projects. So there's a lot happening within the CPI and where it's going around crypto in general, because hopefully it's going to give you guys a little bit of an indicator to kind of pick out some of the things that are happening. I want to go to a poll real quick just to kind of get a little bit of a feed. Do you plan on holding any crypto for a try? All right, man, you guys are already in it. Good. So I like to see that, because this is one of the things that, if you're looking at long-term plays and you're looking at dividing your assets, now remember, not a financial advice, this is what I do. This is something that was a strategy of mine that started really last year, and that was starting to shift my stock portfolio into crypto. And I've narrowed that, because I used to have about 30 stocks, that I narrowed down to 10 stocks. And this year I'm probably going to narrow that down to 5, and continuing to move stocks and values of other investment classes into cryptocurrency, to where about 65 to maybe 70% of my portfolio, liquid portfolio, could be in crypto assets. And that's everything from Bitcoin all the way to alts, and then into my high risk portfolio aspect as well. But one thing to be aware of as you're doing any of those kinds of moves, you want to be very, very careful on the kind of projects that you are investing in. Remember, do your homework, understand what you're getting into, dive in deeper, and don't just watch our channel. Watch there's a lot of great investment analysis out there. Coin Bureau does a great job. You've got the guys over at Digital Asset News with Rob. There's several channels out there that we like that do a fantastic job on really drilling down into the fundamentals. We look a lot around sentiment and all that kind of stuff, but really you want to dive into a lot of the fundamentals. We're going to get to some questions for you guys today and try to answer a few of those as we get going. All right, so a couple we'll get to. Adding, okay, so UPG, and I'm adding to my land, to my portfolio. That'll be interesting to see if we start seeing the opportunity of digital assets in IRAs in the future. Imagine if you could start putting in NFTs, digital land, into long-term lockup. That'll be interesting if we see advancements going there. All right, what do you think of XRP? Will it increase, and how do you plan to hold? Okay, so listen, XRP, we just did a little bit of a video on that the other day that kind of gave you some fundamentals of things that are being disrupted, XRP being one of the major disruptors of what could be SWIFT. And I think the potential there is still very big for XRP. And I have a feeling that we're getting close to maybe a settlement or some sort of decision from this case that's currently underway. All right, let's go in here. What do you think of IMX? IMX is still on our hunt list in terms of top projects. We do watch them constantly because they are in our top watch list for a lot of what's happening in metaverse and NFTs. So we do keep them. I like IMX. They've struggled a little bit. I think they need more news, and obviously we need to see more partnerships coming out. But there is a lot happening with them, and of course Ecomi and VV, which is kind of a marriage there. Will WaxP be able to be held in a hot wallet? I don't know that question. I'm assuming I'd have to test that to see if that could be done. That'd be an interesting test. How many of you guys are using cold wallets out there? And whether it's like a Nano, a Ledger, a Trezor, I'm just kind of curious. Just drop in the comments below if you're catching this after the stream. I'm just kind of curious how many people are taking and self-custodying. We just had the Coinbase team on around Coinbase Wallet. Make sure and check out the video. It's coming soon, so you'll get a chance to. He dropped a lot of very interesting innovation that is happening to their wallet that I think is going to be very, very cool if you are into self-custody. And listen, if that's the first time you've heard this word, don't freak out. Self-custody is something you need to start educating yourself on, because if you're in a traditional exchange, and I know a lot of you guys already know this, but for those of you who are new, when you're in a traditional exchange, the likelihood is you do not have your keys. Well, you do not have your keys. And when I see your keys, meaning your 12-word password or codes that essentially give you access and the right to your currency. So getting into self-custody, I think, is the next evolution, especially around Web3. So a lot happening there. All right. Let's go. It's a shame we don't have anything like this over in the UK. Man, you guys are exactly right. That is kind of a US thing, IRAs, and it's been in our tax code for so long. We're kind of spoiled a little bit with that because it is a great opportunity. People don't realize the opportunity that it represents because it lowers your taxable income and it gives you the ability to gain, and in some cases, not pay on those gains. So there's a lot of very interesting tactics from a tax position that you should always consult your tax advisor on, because your position might be a little different. How you leave your IRA, some people like to leave it to their heirs, and that has a lot of different tax ramifications that are positive, so be thinking about all those. Would you add metaverse to your retirement? That I like, Aaron Thomas. So Axie and many of the metaverse tokens you can actually get on iTrust. I was surprised. They started to really roll up into more and more metaverse. Decentraland's in there, along with many others. And I think we're only going to see more and more coming over to iTrust. So when you are putting in there, I like metaverse long-term play, but I like the blue chips. So Axie, Sand, Mana, then you get into the layer ones, guys like Polygon, Matic, and then of course AVAX, Avalanche, definitely good ones. All right. I have a Trezor and a Nano X. Cool, I like that. It's my life insurance against fraud and problems. Still an OG. Not your keys, not your coin. I like that statement because that is so true, my man, McMahon. All right, just started my ledger myself. That's cool. I'm glad. I like it. You're sleeping a little bit better at night. Do you guys put it in a safe? What do you guys do with this thing? I know how I manage mine. Can't tell you, but definitely one. Top 50 are the safest and easiest bets to invest in and retire with. I agree with you, Chad, because you are looking at, when I look at long term, you really do have to be much more discerning on what projects you put into long-term hold positions, and an IRA would be one of those. So be careful when you do get into long-term investing, not to put something in there that you're locking up that could be a flash in the pan, like a meme coin. No haters on meme coins, but I would not put that in IRA. I would not do it. All right, what are you going? Let's see. What are my go-to assets besides Bitcoin and Ethereum to start iTrust Capital? Okay, so I would go. Let's paint one up real quick. I would go with Avalanche, Polygon. I'd go with Cosmos, Atom, and I'd also get my Bitcoin and my ETH in there, and then I'd move into the metaverse and get Axie. And I would go ahead and put Decentraland in there as my risky one. But I would put Decentraland in there. And if Sandbox ever came in, for sure would get Sandbox in there. And I would hold those for a decade, hand them off to, maybe hold them 2 decades and hand them off to the family later. That would be an absolute great retirement little nest egg for your wife, your kids, whatever it might be, as you get going. Planning to hold OMI till my retirement. I can't really say I would put OMI in there because OMI's hard to get to as it is right now. So it's a little tough one. I love this. Okay, Cardi. My financial advisor is freaking out that I'm investing 5 to 10% in crypto. I can start a new crypto IRA unless I leave my job. I love it. It's interesting because we are seeing a lot of people that are making these big moves right now into the next generation. So first of all, I would say this: be careful, don't over risk. For me, I can do those kind of things, but for many people, don't over risk your liquid assets. Your liquid assets, safe-wise, probably is in the range of 5 to 10% exposure to high risk. If you, now granted, if you're in, you're still in your earning years, or you can lose a little bit more, or you can take some risks because you have a nest egg or something like that. Now you can start playing into those risk waters that you can win big on. So it's just strategy. It's a strategy you have to build on. We're going to jump to a poll real quick. All right, using hardware wallets. Wow, not many. Okay, well, not quite, but not bad for 46% for self-custody. That's pretty good. All right, what about ADA? Do I like it long-term? I'm on the fence with Cardano long-term. And just fully honest with you, until I see, again, more, I still believe in what they're trying to do, but it's kind of like the next question. It's kind of like, and I don't want to put Zilliqa in that framework, but you have to show me the money, show me the things, and deliver on projects. I know Charles is trying to do that with Cardano a lot, but that's a big one. All right, lots of questions here. Let's try to wrap it up. I've had a lot of market crashing around 59% during March. What do you think about that? Heard a lot. Real interesting on CA Motley. So you're thinking or hearing that we could see a 50 to 90% crash. This is the first I've heard of that kind of scenario. That would be a significant opportunity for the market. Oh man, that's when, if we see that kind of crash, we are talking about every major financial firm out there will be doing everything they can, scraping and scrapping to try to get in on those kinds of deals. That'll be interesting to watch that. I think March, I'm still fairly bullish on March for the market. And of course, all bets are off if we continue to see problems in Europe. But besides that, other than that, we could see a lot more adoption because of that. So there's a lot of two-edged swords here that are rolling into it. All right, you guys are listening in over on the podcast, maybe after this live stream. The number one thing you should do is jump over here to the YouTube channel, get in on the Diamond Circle. We're doing our giveaways now in our emails, and we notify our winners of our projects. We'll announce it maybe here on the show, but you will get an email. And we'll post out who the winners are to all of the Diamond Circle members, so you get a chance to see that. And then we'll just say, hey, make sure and ping us here for your wallet so we can drop some digital rewards to you. That's how we're going to do that for the Diamond Circle. Also, you get 2 emails a week. We drop a few news stories, guides, how-to reports, all that kind of stuff. And of course, it's free to get into the Diamond Circle itself. If you want to reach us out on Twitter, it's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.